Now, the table is always hot with current events and social issues, but sometimes the heat can get a little intense. Let's turn the temp down, take a breather, and get into this week's topic cool down. Andre, what do you have for us?
So, Daquon, I want to ask you, how do you feel about wife guys or people who define themselves based on who they are dating?
Ugh. Yeah.
End of
No.
topic.
End of comment. The silence is my comment. No, I think that, I think that wife guys are just in general icky. It's like you can love somebody, and I
Mhm.
love that you love somebody. But when
Great.
your entire personality is just being married to someone, it's giving you're not a whole person.
Hmm.
And I think that that becomes a problem in a relationship, and it often manifests itself in different types of problems because if you're not a whole person and you don't feel whole, you're you think that, oh, your wife is the person that makes you complete. But then you start to realize, well, I still don't feel like a whole person. And then you start trying to find other things outside of that relationship to make you feel whole again. And that's where so many different problems can arise. We've seen it time and time before, but I'm not going to speak on specific issues because let's be real, I'm tired of seeing it on my timeline. So I'm not even going to say those names. But I think that in general, like, sure, you can love your wife or love your husband and, you know, really love and embrace your relationship and be proud of your relationship. But I know for me, that's for the birds. That is
Yeah.
never going to be me. I'm never going to be that person to be have my entire personality based on somebody that I'm dating or in a relationship with because no, y'all don't need to see all of that.
Yeah. I just want to say, like, if your whole personality is that you are married, dating, or have a partner, go to therapy because Molly, you in danger, girl. Like,
Go to
but
therapy.
the sad part though is that I can't really blame people who are like that because I think to some degree we were all in that mental headspace at one point or another. I mean, our society indoctrinates us as children with animated movies that taught us that a lot of our happily ever afters start when we find that special person. Then there are the rom-coms. The person tells their love interest that they're their better half, or like you said, they complete me, and the dozens upon dozens of breakup scenes where it shows that without the other person, they are just a shell of who they were. I mean, it's an incredibly toxic mindset that I understand because I had to unlearn and mature out of it too. I mean, there is no such thing as a better half because you should never go into a relationship without being a full person, like you said. I mean, you may move together as a unit, but you are not one being. You should each be able to stand on your own. But I think that this also stems from us not really understanding what healthy and unhealthy relationships look like. Um, what really helped me understand this was an article that my therapist recommended to me on a site called One Love. It's called 10 Signs of an Unhealthy and Healthy Relationship. So, the 10 signs of an unhealthy relationship: intensity, when someone expresses very extreme feelings and over the top behavior that feels overwhelming; manipulation; sabotage, when someone purposefully ruins your reputation, achievements, or successes; guilting, when someone makes you feel responsible for their actions or makes you feel like it's your job to keep them happy; deflecting responsibility; possessiveness; isolation; belittling; volatility, when someone has a really strong, unpredictable reaction that makes you feel scared, confused, or intimidated; and betrayal. But the 10 signs of a healthy relationships are basically the inverse of that. First, the relationship starts at a comfortable pace. The relationship moves at a speed that feels enjoyable to each person. There's honesty, respect, kindness, and healthy conflict, openly and respectfully discussing issues and confronting disagreements non-judgmentally. There's trust, independence, where you have space to be yourself outside of the relationship, equality, the relationship feels balanced and everyone puts in the same effort into the success of the relationship, taking responsibility, owning your actions and words, and fun. You enjoy spending time together and bring out the best in each other. And I want to ask you, Daquon, what do you think about those descriptions of healthy and unhealthy relationships?
I think that they really shed a new light on this whole wife guy thing because thinking about the unhealthy signs of a unhealthy relationship, it really shows just how unhealthy being a wife guy is because
Yeah.
you start to think about those things and it's like, oh, it is kind of manipulative because you're doing all of this for your wife and showing how much you love them and X, Y, and Z. And if that same energy is not reciprocated by the wife or partner or whatever, then it makes it look like they're the bad spouse, that they don't
Yeah.
care about the relationship and can actually turn people on your partner and think that you're this good guy and like your partner doesn't give you the same energy and you deserve better, quote unquote. And that can really create this manipulative and toxic environments. And I also think that a lot of this also comes from not only how toxic relationships we see in the media and how they're portrayed of like your happily ever after has to start with finding love, but
Yeah.
also so often I feel like wife guys don't have a personality beforehand. They
Oh,
have that white bread syndrome of like they don't really have that much things that are unique about them.
you know what?
But seriously, they don't have a whole lot going on outside of their relationship. So when they get in that relationship, it becomes their personality because they need something to set them apart. Maybe everybody is like, likes the same things or, is pursuing the same career path, but you're the person with a wife. You're the person in a relationship. And so
Wow.
you hold on to that to have some type of individuality in a world where you grew up not being an individual, but just like everybody else. That white bread syndrome.
That is a word, Daquan. I didn't even think about it from that perspective. Like the idea that they come in not having anything or not having a personality or not knowing themselves. So when they find someone, they're like, oh, bitch, I am here now. I have a wife and kids, and my wife and me watch Netflix together every night, and she sleeps with me too. So it gives very that kind of energy. But like, yeah, I'm thinking about that now. Like there are a lot of guys like that or people that I've met whose entire lives surround around the person they're with because they aren't really, they don't have a personality of their own. And that's really sad. And I think that that's also going into like knowing yourself, before you step into a relationship, because the thing about knowing yourself is you don't just know the good. You don't just know what you bring to the table. You also know your baggage, your trauma, the triggers that you have, the faults that you have. And when you know these things in here and up here, when you get into a relationship or you get into a situation where you're meeting someone and you're trying to discover if this relationship will work, and they're like, oh no, you're doing this, you're not doing that, X, Y, and Z, you're able to say, hold on, I know myself. And you're not going to tell me that I'm something that I know that I'm not. I know where I fall short, and that is not one of the areas that I do. And so I think that happens a lot. And I think that even with the unhealthy relationships, the signs of that, especially, I don't know about in Black households, but in a lot of Black films, I've noticed that there's this idea of intensity. Like, let's think about Empire is a really great example of this, with Cookie and Lucius. Even though the relationship was incredibly toxic, there was this intensity, this passion, this fire that made it feel like, oh, this is what love is. Love is fighting. Love is anger. Love is rage. And it's like, no, that's not it. No, that's not what it actually is. That's not what it should be. So I think that oftentimes, unpacking that possessiveness and also unpacking the unhealthy dynamics that you may have that you might not even know you have within yourself when you're starting to get into relationships. So understanding that you have a tendency to self-sabotage. You may have a tendency to be too intense, too fast, or you may have a tendency to be, very possessive. Understanding those things will help you become a more rounded, more healthy partner. Now, so many children grow up never knowing the full scope of what their culture has contributed to society and history. So, Daquon, I think it's time for a change. Let's take a pause, rewind, and remind the world just how we did that. In an article on blackpast.org contributed by Devon White, we learned that Alexander Miles is the 19th century African American inventor known best for patenting his design for improving the automatically opening and closing elevator doors. The patent was issued on October 11th, 1887. Before moving to Winona, Minnesota, Alexander Miles began exploring his passion for inventing, first by creating hair care products while working as a barber in Wisconsin. After Miles and his family settled in Duluth, Minnesota, he began operating a barbershop in the four-story St. Louis hotel. By using his earnings to purchase a real estate office, Miles became the first African American member of the Duluth Chamber of Commerce. In 1884, he erected a three-story brownstone building in Duluth, transforming the surrounding area into what he styled as Miles Block. Shortly after, he began developing his concept to improve the function of the elevator door. Despite John W. Meeker's patented invention of the first automatic elevator door system in 1874, many elevators still required the doors and the shaft to be manually opened and closed. Miles became concerned with the dangerous risks associated with elevators once he noticed a shaft door left open during a ride with his young daughter. Due to people forgetting to close the shaft doors before utilizing the elevator, there were many reported incidents of people falling into the shafts. Although Meeker received the patent first, it was Miles' innovation that made electric-powered elevator doors widely accepted around the world. Today, the influence of his patent is present in modern designs for elevator systems in which automatic doors are a standard feature. Miles was known to be the wealthiest African American in the Pacific Northwest region by the time of his death on May 7th, 1918. In 2007, he was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame.
I just love a good Black inventor story.
Right? Like,
it's giving excellence.
As always.
As always, Black excellence. In a post from the Smithsonian National Postal Museum, we learn about Mary Fields, better known as Stagecoach Mary, who was the first African American woman to carry mail on a star route for the United States Post Office Department. Mary was born into slavery, but after emancipation, she moved from West Virginia and went up the Mississippi River where she worked on steamboats. She eventually moved west, where she mainly worked for St. Peter's Mission near Cascade, Montana. One major thing that Mary was also in charge of was the locating and delivery of supplies needed for the mission. In 1895, in her early 60s, Mary obtained a contract by the United States Post Office Department to be a star route carrier. Mary built a reputation of being fearless while working as a mail carrier. Mary's job was not only to deliver the mail, but also to protect the mail from bandits, thieves, wolves, and the weather as well. Mary gained her nickname Stagecoach Mary due to her use of a stagecoach as a method of transportation to deliver the mail. Mary Fields died on December 5th, 1914. After her death, the townspeople raised money to have her buried in a cemetery on a road she drove frequently that linked Cascade to the mission. Mary's funeral was said to be one of the largest in town.
Bitch, this is giving.
Black
This
women.
is giving.
Right. Your legacy is so that they give you the largest funeral. They raise the town raises money for your funeral. That's what
And
you
I
call
just checked.
impact.
They got like a short movie or a short film. I'm like, fuck that. We need a whole full feature movie. Like, what the fuck is this? I'm tired of seeing fucking slaves. We want to see some shit. We want to see some black people succeeding and fucking the game up. Like, damn.
Can we get a Stagecoach Mary film?
Right. And you didn't got to call it nothing. Stagecoach Mary. That's the title.
There you go.
Like, ugh. As always, thank you all so much for watching and listening, and keep the conversation going down in the comment box below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. And if you're listening to us on our podcast, please rate and review on whatever platform you're using. You can also follow our podcast on Instagram and TikTok at the Melanin Margin for updates of new content.